sure, and I did want to point out a couple of things. Let me bring up a screen. Let's get this, bring it up here. So many of you know this.
Not a big shift here from the past.
But we've moved all of our videos. We have 147 videos after cleaning up some of the old stuff up on our YouTube channel. And you can search Todd Ballinger YouTube, and that's Todd Ballinger with a YouTube. We post the prior week's webinar as a featured webinar each week, because some folks have asked about how do I watch this after the fact. So if you come to the main channel, you'll see here in the main channel last week's webinar. You'll also notice if there are any documents or handouts or materials from that call, we put the link for that right here in the description under the video. So last week, David Lucas was on talking about his radio show and how he's transitioning his business. And he shared with us that he had written some scripts that he was using with some advisors as well as with clients. And he was kind enough to share those. So he sent them to us. We posted them up here on the site. I also put them on the email that went out earlier today as a reminder. That attachment is in that email, so you'll see it at the bottom. And it's 5 or 6 pages of really nicely thought out scripts, and he was very, very kind to share those. So we'll always have any shares will be associated with the video. And below, down here in the lower section of our channel, if you actually go to the live channel, it'll look like this. This is just the Todd Ballinger YouTube channel itself. You'll see that video. You'll also see featured playlists. We have video lessons, case studies, best practices, FAQs. So when I answer a question now for a consumer, for a loan officer and advisor, and it's just a quick 3-4 minute video question, we're now posting those here into FAQs. So we've got 34 of those, and there's you can look at them by subject or whatever. We have our update videos, etc. And down here we have our webinar events. So here are all the webinars in sequence. We've done 7 so far. This is our 8th in the series, and you can actually view them in order if you want to go back through. Some people are playing catch up and just want to know, hey, how would I go back and watch videos from the very beginning to catch up? And you can actually do that and watch video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Each of them, again, has different case studies, best practices, ideas, handouts, materials, etc. that you may find helpful. So I just want to let you know that that is all available. You can access that from within the software itself. I believe, let's just double check that I can do that. On your support tab right here, on the support tab for training and education, you can click any of these links and they'll take you to the particular page where all of those videos are, but that's going to take you to the YouTube page so you can access the channel as well. And if we haven't done it, I'll make this right here a live link that'll take you to the main page, but that's right there under the support tab. And one other thing, because some people will ask or say, hey, why don't you put current interest rates or things, because I don't know what the LIBOR is or I don't know what the so-and-so is. We actually set up on our support page this column here that provides you all of the national average rates for the indexes, the Wall Street Federal Prime, the Coffee Index, the LIBOR, the 3-year, the 15, 30, 10-year, all the different arms. And that is right under the support tab. So a lot of people don't really know that that's there. So if you just click on, so if you're ever, you're looking for a prime rate or you're not really sure what the LIBOR is right now, just click that support tab. It's going to bring it up and refresh, and you're going to have all the live current interest rates right there on the screen that you can look at. And it's just a nice quick reference if you're in the software and need to know what do I plug in for a 5-year right now, just to be, kind of in the general market. All right, so that's just another little tip for you. Cool. All right, so Now, that said, so Jeff Hatton saying call-in is much better, so you're getting a better quality audio on the audio number. So that's a good tip, Jeff. I guess if Angie's got everyone muted, so Angie, if you want to put up the number and let folks just use the call-in number instead of the web, since that seems to be the weak link, then that's fine. We shouldn't have any problems since everyone's muted right now. All right, now let's get into the actual call for today. Again, we'll kind of review a few key concepts from each week. It's not what the software does, it's what the user does. So that's what these calls are all about, to share with you both what the software does and to ultimately upgrade you as a user. I really appreciate the continued feedback and ideas that you guys are sharing, best practices. We've got a lot of cool new things coming. I'll tell you about a couple of them today. Our goal always for new people that are just joining here today is to make sure that you understand that this huge investment that you've made in generating a lead and this gap between when that lead or opportunity, that suspect or prospect calls you, and when you get to the real 1003 in the application is bridged in a way that helps you to maximize your return on your investment. And that's what happens between that first call and the application. Adam's going to share with us some of the things today that he does to maximize his conversion rate and how he works with his clients. And we base all this around a simple philosophy. We continue to expand the power of the tool, but with the idea that ultimately you want to use it at its lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator is, what does a client need to see to be able to know how to effectively move forward with a client transaction? And they need to know how, and do I have the cash? Do I have the cash flow? And what's my wealth impact over time? If you answer those three questions, you will see your client increase on a conversion rate from prospects and suspects to closing, and that will translate right down to your bottom line as it relates to your income. So we're going to talk about, and always talk about in the context of those three questions: can I afford it now? Can I afford it now? Cash and cash flow, and what's the wealth impact over time? We want to develop a fast, easy tool that delivers clarity and confidence and leads to quick action. The maybes in life drive you crazy. So we continue to hear great feedback that people are getting clients to move forward quickly, or they're taking them out of the transaction if that's what needs to happen because it's not a good fit for them right now. Now, we've made a couple of updates, some that I'll point out as we do our case today. One that I want a model that came in from one of our users was that on the search term, we were searching for the client information. Now we search all of the fields. We search plan, title, names, etc. So, for example, if I put in consolidation, right, and I go and click search, it's going to bring up every plan that either has consolidation in the name of the client or in the description or anywhere else that would be a relative search term. So that's a pretty cool upgrade. It was a little more involved than we thought, but it'll really help you if you've got maybe a couple different plans, or you're just trying to find something you'd worked on, and maybe you were just doing a sample. The search terms now will search all of the related fields. The second thing that we're working on, and this will be live on Monday, is that we realized on the borrow screen, if you chose any of the adjustable rate mortgages for the first position, you had the ability to edit the widget and do the modeling of the different interest rates and caps and stuff like that. But we hadn't done that on the second. So if you were, say, doing an equity line of credit, we had not incorporated the second into the same modeling. So that's being done, and we'll go live on Monday. So if you had a 5-year ARM with an equity line of credit as a second mortgage, you'll be able to click both of those and put in the caps and the lifetime caps and everything, and the software will model that appropriately. Right now, it just assumes that that is a fixed interest rate for the term of that particular loan, and we knew that that's not the right thing. We need to be able to put in the life caps and everything and let you say, use a best case or worst case or custom or whatever. So that enhancement, we thought we'd have it done today, but we're still testing it. We're going to test it tomorrow, and it should be live on Monday. The other thing that we're doing that will also be live on Monday is we've spent the last week completely redesigning the database. The database has gotten very large with all the different fields, so we rewrote the way the database is going to work, which is going to actually make it accessing information faster, and you'll see a speed increase there. And we're also moving to a new larger server with double the memory and stuff, and a new hosting platform in about 2 weeks, and that will increase the speed even further. So we've taken your feedback in, and we want to make sure that we make this as fast as it can possibly be, while still giving you all the power and the control and stuff that you want. That said, I want to introduce Adam Snively. So Adam, if you can unmute your phone. And Adam's with Hallmark Home Mortgage, and he's our guest speaker today. How you doing, Adam?
Good. Thanks for having me, Todd.
Hey, buddy. Thanks, man. You have been one of those users that you like. You know, you're a good customer, but you've also given us some great feedback over the last couple of years on ways to make the software better for you. We're going to go through a case study that you have and allow you to both show a real case study and talk through philosophically and practically how you're using the software in your practice. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about your company, your background. You're with Hallmark Home Mortgage. Tell us about your company experience, maybe a little bit about the types of clients you work with, and your overall focus.
Sure, yeah. So I've been with Hallmark Home Mortgage for a little bit over a year now. Previously, I was a mortgage broker, and Hallmark is a mortgage banker, and find that works pretty well for me. Just from the fact that we do everything in-house. We do all our own underwriting, processing, funding, all of that. So love it here at Hallmark. It's going real well. Clientele-wise, probably the last couple of years, I've been a little bit heavier on refinances, and primarily due to this tool. I think it does such a great job, and I have several financial planners that I work with that really love the tool, that I'm able to show borrowers how much money they can save, how much more can go to investments and things like that.
How many total years have you been in the mortgage business?
I've been in about 10 years now.
Okay, so about 10 years in the industry. And do you focus more on purchases, refinances? What's your typical mix of purchase and refi?
Typical is probably a little bit heavier the last 3 years, about 60% on refinances, but so far this year it's flip-flopped, and probably a lot of people are seeing a lot of purchase activity. I'm in Indianapolis, and we have a lot of purchases going on. In fact, a lot of multiple offer situations, and so right now it's probably 60-70% purchase right now.
And what's your primary, when you look at your referral source mix for purchase and refis, where do most of your purchase referrals come from, and where do most of your refi referrals come from?
Refinance referrals are financial planners by far. That would be my biggest source. Purchase is going to be some financial planners, but I've got a good core group of realtors that will send business.
So you get purchase business from advisors and realtors.
Yes. Yep.
That's interesting. A lot of people I talk to or feel like that they can only get purchase business from realtors, but I've always found that many consumers consult with their advisor to find out what they would want to put down and how much money they might want to pull from investments to buy a first home or second home or whatever, and then they talk to the realtor. And so in many cases, the advisor knows about the transaction before a realtor would. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely, and I think what's good about that, number one, I can work with the borrower, before they go out and start looking at what their price point is. But another thing that, I'm sure that the folks on the call are familiar with is realtors are always looking for us to send them business when possible. And when I can get ahead of working with the realtor, instead of them sending me business, and I can send them business by talking with the financial advisor first, that really helps in the mind of the mind of the realtors. When I can send them business.
That's very cool. Well, let's jump into your case study. I'm going to stop sharing on my end here, and let me turn over and see if you can grab control. Perfect. I see your screen coming up now.
Okay.
Great. So maybe give us a little setup and start with, like, where did this lead come in from? What were you trying to accomplish? And then, how did you approach it with the software? And in your process, are you typically meeting with a client, like face-to-face? Do you talk to them over the phone and then prepare the plan and present the plan? Talk to us a little bit about your process.
Sure, yeah. These this couple, they were from a financial planner I was able to get them from, and they are high net worth clients, a high mortgage, looking for the best solution, for their situation. So they have you can see a loan amount of $555,000 for the first mortgage. Second mortgage is $35,000 at an interest only, at 4.25% for a second mortgage. But kind of my process, the way that I generally do things, I find that I'm in the office a fair amount, and we'll talk with the clients, get their situation. In fact, generally what I'll do is I have a template email prepared. So, most people don't have their mortgage statement in front of them, but I'll talk with them first, just to get to know them, get a little information, but they generally don't have everything that I need. So I follow up with an email and ask them for just everything that's in Mortgage Builder, or excuse me, everything's in the Borrow Smart analysis, just to be able to, bullet points of their current principal and interest payment, mortgage insurance, anything like that, just all the specifics that I need. That way we're both on the same page when they email it back. I'll work on it over the next 24 hours, find a time to get that going. And then what I'll do, generally, I like a lot of times to give them a call. Everybody is busy. A lot of my clients don't have time to come in and meet. So what I'll do is I will prepare the PDF and send it over to them. And if they don't have time to talk, that's what I would prefer, so I can get any questions in, things like that. But it can always happen. And so one thing that I have really enjoyed is kind of teaming the Borrow Smart analysis with the Jing software, which I'm sure you're everybody's familiar with. And I'll just do a recording of me, just usually a 3 to 4 minute recording, going through the analysis page by page, explaining what it is, and sending just again. I've got a template email where I send it in, attach my the analysis along with a link to Jing where they can hear me explaining it, walking through it, and that way they're able to forward it on to their spouse or listen to it at the same time. But I've gotten some great feedback just with that alone of how professional that is, both with realtors and clients.
That's cool. And if people don't know what that is, I'll post some information, or Angie can put something in the room. It's jingproject.com. It's a free tool that allows you to record your screen and then send that out with an attachment for the client. And it's a really nice way to help focus them on some of the key features of your advice and what you're doing. But it gives you a lot of flexibility because you can send it out in your email with your template, with a PDF and any other information that you want. So that's cool. On the intake, are you taking the information? I wasn't sure. Are you taking it over the phone typically? Or you? Last week, David said that he had gone and used a tool, I think it was called Wufoo, and he built a simple little intake form for clients to fill out. And when they submit that, he was putting that into BSA. What's your favorite process for getting the information in?
What I like doing is if I can get it over the phone on that first conversation, I always like to be able to speak with them. So I don't like just sending an email out asking for the information. Gotcha. I always like to talk with them first,
Gotcha.
Touch base. But generally, they don't know that they don't have their mortgage statement in front of them. Maybe they're at work. Maybe it's away somewhere they're going to have to get online. But then I'll follow up with an email and a bullet point of probably 6 or 7 things that I'm looking for, so that I can fill out the information on the analysis.
Excellent. That's the beautiful thing about this business. There are 100 ways that you can do this business, and it's for yourself, finding a rhythm and a process that works for you, and doing that consistently. And then once you get the system down, it works for you, it's predictable, then you can scale up your marketing and find new and exciting ways to generate leads. But it's so critical that you initially get a style down that you like. So take us through the case study and kind of share with us your style of how you would present to a client that's a high net worth client that's got $590,000 in current borrowing. They've got some pretty low rates now, around 5.3% pre-tax. So how would you attack this?
Yeah, so these people wanted to cash flow wasn't necessarily a big issue. They happen to both be the husband and wife are both doctors, have a good amount of cash flow, but they want to they know rates are lower, and so we're going to look for the best possible solution. One concern that they had was the home equity line, because as you'll see, I was looking at potentially raising that to get down to the conforming limit of 417. But one of the major concerns they had was what's going to happen with prime. How is that going to go up? Those type of things. So I wanted to try to demonstrate, okay, what's going to be the best solution. But as you can see, a loan amount of $550,000, 5.375. They had the total payment here. They were okay with that. Just wanted to see what they could do to make it lower. So when my thinking process is. I generally want to give them a couple different examples, and I'll usually try to put it in order of maybe good, better, and best. So the 30-year jumbo, what I did is basically kept their same loan. Everything's going to be the same, except we are able to refinance to a little bit lower interest rate, which would save them a good amount of money. You can see cash flow wise, it would save them over about $240 or so. Which is nice, but I don't think that's the best case scenario. But we kind of walked through. In fact, I wasn't even thinking necessarily the 30-year jumbo would be it, but they wanted me to put that in there to find out, if we wanted the majority of our loan fixed, what would that look like? So this was kind of the first example was the better. You can have better, a lower monthly payment. You're going to save money, but it may not be the best solution, the best interest rate. So what I did is I also put in a 30-year fix second, a 30-year fix, and then I fixed the second. We have a local bank that will do a 10-year second mortgage at 6.5%. We've got the conforming limit now of $417,000 at the lower interest rate, but we've got a 10-year second at $173,000, all fixed, which they like that. But you can see the payment goes up quite a bit, and that fixed mortgage is fairly high on the second mortgage. So what I did is what my proposed was to do a 30-year fixed for conforming and do an equity line, the entire thing at the 4.25%. The one unknown, and they know this, is that we don't know what prime's going to do. I think it'll stay low for a little while, but we don't know exactly what it is, what it's going to do. But you can see that the fixed payment at 4% is going to be much lower, and their equity line is going to be a lot lower, which will also free them to make additional principal payments to pay off that equity line. So if I kind of let me move down here just a little bit. Now there's a little bit of lag. Closing costs, I was able to give them, pay most of their closing costs with a 30-year fix for the conforming limit, so that's why those are a little bit lower. But let me scroll down here.
So you tend to go through. Do you go through and first show them the closing costs and show them the difference there, and you tend to go in sequence and go closing cost, payment, and then wealth impact? I know some people like to go right to payment and cash flow. What's your flow?
Yeah, I will generally walk through just the way that it's laid out. I think the eye follows that well. I think you've done a good job of putting the categories in right. So yes, I'll go through real quick. The monthly payment and show them what the exact amount is. These clients were a little bit different in the fact that the minimum monthly payment, they were willing to pay more than that. In fact, I asked them, okay, if we want to pay this down, what's your principal and interest payment that you're willing to pay? And they told me up to $5,000. So I didn't really review this too much, but I moved down to the next screen of the future wealth impact here that shows that they're willing to pay $5,000 on a monthly basis. So what I showed them was let me get this back to zero. and that's another thing on just me personally. I like to keep the appreciation rate just at zero, and the after-tax savings if we're not if we're not trying to figure out how much they can make by investing and things like that. I try to keep it fairly simple. So I won't.
And that's such a great point. We stress this again and again. The lowest common denominator is showing someone exactly what they need to move forward and make a decision, and simplifying it. Like you used 5,000. 5,000 is a much better number than $4,780. It's just an even round number, and you can see that reflected below on payments. Right, you're going to spend $600,000 over 10 years. People can kind of follow that math. If property appreciation isn't relevant for the refi, then leave it at zero. It's just anything you can do as you're building your case, ask yourself, is this extraneous? Is this important or is it not? And I'm just going to put in the key variables that are going to help that person see in the fewest possible numbers which of these scenarios is best for them.
Yeah, you got it. I think the more we can simplify, I think as loan originators, particularly users of this software, are probably more mathematically inclined, anyways. But that's what I find is I'm trying to think of the lowest common denominator. A great way of putting it, to find out, will this make sense? You've got people that all from all sorts of backgrounds that are going to be viewing this, and I try to keep it as simple as possible. So what I do then is, and really I tell them, I go through that whole exercise and really tell them all to get to this. But this part is where, for me on the PDF, I think it's page 5, and they say, but this is the most important part that I want you to focus on. So all of that we need to pay attention to. We need to pay attention to what the cash flow is, the monthly cash flow, what the closing costs are. But it all comes together right here. I always point out the time frame that we're looking at. They told me, we just bought this house a year ago, and we're going to be here for at least 10 years. So I always point that out. Okay, this is a snapshot in 10 years that we're going to look at. And then I walk through, and probably what I love the most about this is, I kind of have a, looking at the current situation, you can see there's no number there, and that's exactly what happens for the wealth impact. Is if you do nothing, there will be no savings. And I just, to me, on a refinance or purchase, it's all about getting them to see the actual savings, and knowing that, giving them the freedom to say, you don't have to do anything here, but if you don't, this is what you'll be missing out on. And that's what I love that this so clearly shows. So I always walk through. In fact, depending on the borrower, sometimes I'll just explain quickly this. How we come up with a number. The equity minus payments minus the cash to close gives us this number, which everything else is going to be based off of. I don't always go through all the details and tell them exactly how we got with it. They can see that, but what this. To me, what the Borrow Smart analysis does is it builds trust. They see numbers, they're able to calculate, they're able to follow along, and it builds trust. And once I have someone's trust, it's a lot easier for them to make the decision to use me. I don't hardly see any other loan officers, at least in my market, that are doing this. So this is a big differentiation between me and other loan officers. When they see what I've done and what I've done to take the time, they're appreciative and want to use me, and they want to use me because of the trust that I've developed with them.
Fantastic. That's very cool, man.
Yeah. So what I do is, again, just walk through the numbers and show them that the 30-year fixed jumbo, still they're going to save almost $30,000, which is much better. If they want the majority of this loan fixed, that's not a bad decision. That could be the one that they end up going up, the one they end up using. But then I show them just kind of quickly going through the 30-year fix on a second mortgage that's fixed for 10 years. That's going to give them that is also going to give them a completely fixed product, and it'll save even more. So this is probably what I would advise them with if they were risk averse. If they thought the home equity line would go up. But then finally show them what it would be if we take a total payment of $5,000 and apply that. You can see the savings almost $67,000. And then another thing that this gentleman was very concerned. Well, how quickly would he would he go over, or, excuse me, how quickly would he pay off the home equity line? So what I can do is quickly scroll back to the top, and I go to the repayment screen. And what I can show is, and in fact I'm going to change this to the lowest balance first. I don't believe in this situation makes a difference, but and what I can show him here, scrolling down to the proposed liabilities, that his second mortgage here, the equity line shown in brown, is about 5.5 years. If he takes the rest of that, the additional principal, if his max payment is $5,000, if he takes whatever's left over and apply that towards the second mortgage, he's going to be paying down the balance quickly. So any interest rate that any rise in that and the interest rate on the home equity line is going to be pretty significantly offset because he's paying it down so fast. 5.5 years is all he's going to have to worry about that. And you can see, in year 3, that's going to be more around $60,000. If it goes up 1%, even 2%, there's enough savings built in that we showed between the completely fixed product for a first and second mortgage than using the home equity line.
I like that. That's very cool. Very cool. Go back to the bar screen for 1 second. I want to share one more point on the wealth impact. You made it earlier, but I want to state it a little bit differently. And that is that if I've mentioned a book before called The Paradox of Choice, and there's another wonderful book called Priceless. And these talk about the way consumers make decisions, and people will make a decision to avoid loss 2 times more than they'll make a decision for possible gain. So it's the same dynamic, right? But the way Adam expressed it there is a subtle differential that will keep him in the higher conversion rate. Imagine if you could convert almost 35% more customers just by knowing that from a wording standpoint, if you say your wealth impact here is baseline at 0, this is because you're doing what you're doing now. If you don't change anything, this is what's going to happen. But if you don't do what I'm recommending in the third column, you're going to lose $66,982. Multiple studies and surveys have been done that says 65% of people surveyed in these various tests that they've done will take action to avoid losing $1, whereas only a third would take action to gain $1. All right, and it's just a psychological thing. But if you position it as, here's what you're doing today, if you do this, you're going to gain $66,982. That's the same as saying, here's what you're doing today. If you don't do this, you'll lose $66,982 over the same time period. It's the same thing, but that particular phrasing will increase your conversion rates by about a third when it comes down to people making a decision. People inherently, they have a distrust or an uncertainty about gain, but they truly fear loss. And that's just a little thing to think about as you're thinking about, how do I position numbers? It is a gain and a benefit, but you could say it 2 different ways, and if you said it to 10 different people, you could pick up a couple of new prospects by just learning to think about how people tend to motivate and tend to act. So anyway, but that just came up as a thought when you were covering that, because I think the way you're doing it is perfect. It's probably something you've learned intuitively from doing this with hundreds of clients, but it's borne out in lots of different studies and research as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's probably even a better way of putting it. But yeah, definitely, and yeah, even like moving up, like I mentioned, even in the stair steps, I try to, even the way that I position it, so it's almost even that is the kind of the risk case of higher risk to the right but higher reward. So if that's not the one, that's okay. Let's still take advantage. You're still, if you want everything fixed, we can still save $50,000 over the next 10 years.
And one other thing you can do, because this is again the same dynamic of choice, is if you were working with this client, you could say, based on these options, is there any one of these that you would say I'd absolutely get rid of? For example, is the 30-year jumbo still a possibility? And if the client says, no, I don't think we do that, then it's okay to go up to the top and just shrink that up and remove that as a choice and continue your conversation. I had someone do that recently, and the first time they did it, the client said, well, we definitely don't want to keep the current. So immediately he knew what? He knew that he'd made the sale, and that wasn't even what we were trying to accomplish. I just said, look, just go in there when you get down to 4, because he liked to show lots of options. He was one of these guys that wanted me to add so you could do 5 or 6 plans. I'm like, look, you don't need to do 5 or 6 plans for people. You're just going to confuse them. 4 is the most you need, and then you want to whittle down from there. And if someone says, well, I wouldn't do current, cool. Make it disappear, and then just compare the other options if you want to do that. Just depends on your particular style. So this is really cool, Adam. Any other kind of parting thoughts that you'd share with these guys as to what you're finding is working for you?
I think, like you said, it's about doing the same thing over and over. And I'm kind of a process thinker, and I like to rely on a process and not continue to reinvent the wheel. So one thing that I do is keep templates, and I'll improve those templates, whether it's email or kind of speaking, things like that, and improve every at intervals, but having something that I can move quickly through, So what I try to do, when I'm doing that email and I'm sending those 8 bullet points out, I've got a Word document that I'm just copying and pasting and sending over, and I'll change the name and maybe say a little bit about our conversation that we had, and then go on to the next client and wait for that to come back in. Set up a reminder so when I sent that email out that within 2 days they should be able to respond to me, and then we'll follow up, and we'll get the Borrow Smart analysis ready for them, those type of things. But I would just really encourage, if you can get stuff down to a process, allow the analysis to work for itself, but keep processes, keep templates, things like that.
Fantastic, man. Well, I do really appreciate your time today and sharing some of your insight. And for today's marketing idea, kind of based on what you shared and something that we talked about a little bit last week. Last week we talked about the marketing idea being sending out an evidence of success email to clients, sharing with them a recent event, a plan for a client that you did recently that you felt was indicative of how you provide value, and letting people look at that. What I'm hearing from a number of people is that they're sending out short videos using Jing or Camtasia or whatever tool. There are plenty of free tools. Someone asked about this. I am in talks with a group right now, and we're looking at an integrated video tool that we would roll out in our July release, so that you'd be able to create the video and actually paste that or actually deploy it into a web page with your branding. So that would be kind of cool. But you can go through and use like the Jing tool, and you would take the same presentation that we talked about last week, where you create a presentation to the web, but go there and record the presentation and the key features and benefits. And instead of sending the actual sample link with the presentation, send them the video. Let the client go through and watch your videos. You talk about what you did for a particular client and how you helped them, and use that as your evidence of success. Don't take these ideas and try to do them all. This is just like having a process. Take the idea that stands out to you that you really like and implement that for 4 weeks. If you like the video idea, do that, but commit to do it for 4 weeks. Okay, send out to different people in your client database, to referral partners. I've had a number of people tell me that they've gone through and done one video narration of a plan that they did for a client and sent it out to financial advisors, and that yielded them immediate appointments, and in some cases immediate referrals. I don't need to meet with you. I've just been looking for somebody that can do this. I've got some clients for you. One guy got 8 referrals in his first 2 weeks after sending some video out to his particular list of advisors, and the advisors came out of the phone book. He had his secretary go through and make a list of all the advisory firms, got the name of the person that was the office manager, asked for a name of a person that he could send information to, got some permission, and then he sent the information saying, I talked to Sandy at your front desk. She said I could send you this. It's a quick video explaining what we do for our clients. If you're interested, please let me know. One of the advisory firms that saw it sent him 8 referrals over the first 2 weeks. And that is exciting. And it's very simple. It's scalable. It's duplicatable. You create one plan that you like, make a video, and then start sending it out to select groups. Maybe they call you in to interview to make sure you're a good dude or good dudette. But whatever the case may be, you're finding new ways to get out in front of different people. So let's transition over and let's talk a little bit about the case study that I had lined up for you today, and some of the features that we haven't really gone into, but I want to talk about a bit, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and try to stay on track. So this particular example is Joe and Sally homeowner. It's an original case study that came in some time ago, but I wanted to go through and talk about it in the context of a couple of different features. Well, I mentioned before that we now have we have the new search feature, so it's easy to find your plans and stuff. You can have a client like Joe and Sally, and you can have unlimited plans for Joe and Sally. So once you have a client like Joe and Sally, you can add plans. That means that if I look under Joe and Sally and I click, I've already got 4 plans here: a debt consolidation, a beach house they're buying, and a debt consolidation we've done. So I can have multiple plans. That could be the client comes back in 3 months after they refinance with you and decide they're going to buy a beach house, and you want to go through, and all you have to do is click the Add Plan button, and that creates a new plan for that client. But that's also cool because I can take a client and maybe work up multiple plans if I need to. I can take one plan, and I've seen this happen where a client has, say, maybe 5 or 6 houses, and instead of trying to get 5 or 6 houses on one plan, which is a little cumbersome, they would do a plan for each property and maybe have 3 or 4 plans saying, this is what we're going to do for this house, here's what we're going to do for your investment property, and you can do that very quickly just by clicking the Add Plan button. Don't forget the Transfer Plan button. This is where you can transfer the plan that you're working on right now to anyone in your network. So any financial advisor that you've connected with in your network, you can see them as they pop up in the list. You can click the Send button, and that's going to transfer that plan to that advisor so they can take a look at it. Now, we've got the normal client information liabilities, and this one's got an auto, a mortgage, and a credit card. 7% auto, a mortgage of 6.5%, and a credit card of 12%. Okay? We've got the referral partner button down here, and someone asked in the chat during Adam's speech if the materials are co-branded. Right now, we have it so that if you pick a client, you pick a referral partner, and you expand this box and leave it expanded, it will co-brand all of your logo and the other person's logo on the materials. But it only does that on the flyers. That'd be the purchase, the flyers, the seller buy-down flyers, the open house flyers and stuff. We've had a couple people ask us recently if we would do that for the main presentation. That means that if I expand this now, it's going to co-brand all my flyers. I can pick a partner and shrink it up, and it's only going to have my branding. But if I expand it, it's going to have both my branding and my partner's branding. So we're currently looking at mapping out a new cover page that if you expanded the referral partner on a normal presentation, it would actually co-brand the cover page of the presentation to show your information and the partners. Now, one of the reasons that we didn't do that initially is because most financial advisors cannot have their picture or logo or information on any materials that haven't been approved by their corporate office. So that means when we didn't want you to get in trouble because you put stuff on a presentation with an advisor, and then the advisor finds out about it and gets mad because he can't have that out in the marketplace as marketing forward-facing consumer materials. But we're looking at that, just so you know, as something that we would do, and then we would just make sure that you know that you don't want to go in there and co-brand materials that have someone's stuff on it without making sure they can do that. And most advisors would be unable to do that. Insurance agents probably would, CPAs, property and casualty agents, but most direct financial advisors could not. Now, we haven't talked about this much, but the detailed interview questions, these were my key questions that I asked a client when I was talking to them on the phone or in person to differentiate myself. And if I expand that button here, you'll notice that what happens is a new tab pops up called the Ask tab. And these are the questions that I always ask because I felt like good questions made me appear very different from other people that were simply collecting just the generic name, address, and phone number. So this is an optional interview tab for you, but if you haven't used this, I would encourage you to consider when you're talking to the client, with the Manage tab, as we've talked about, an express plan only requires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of information plus whatever liabilities the client has. But with the Ask tab, we're prompting you for some additional information. What additional amount do you have available from savings or investments that you would consider applying towards a purchase or a refinance? This is a great question because I would find people would say, I'd like to spend an extra $300 a month, or we've got $30,000 that we were thinking about applying towards the mortgage, or I don't know, we probably as much as we could afford. But it was a great conversation starter. It really was a differentiator. How many years do you think you'll have this new loaner live in this house? I wanted to know what their time frame was. What were they thinking about? I had clients telling me they want a 30-year fix, and I would ask them this question, and they would say 4 to 5 years. Well, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to be in this house or live in this house for 4 to 5 years, you don't need a 30-year fixed. You may not know that, but now I know that I can talk about that in the context of their goals. Sometimes people would say, I plan to live in this house for 21 to 30 years, but I'd like to pay it off in 6 to 10 years. Well, that meant I learned something from that. I learned that they were very interested in how am I going to accelerate and pay this off as quickly as possible. If I knew that, then I could focus on repaying strategies that would get them out of debt faster, and that was going to connect them with me, and I was more likely going to get their business. How much do you have in all of your other investments? And these are the 3 classes of the American citizen. About a third are $25,000 or less. Actually, it's more than that now. A third are $26,000 to $125,000, and a third are $126,000 or more. So this is taking the average non-equity in the home and saying how much cash do you have available, and it just gives us a feel for where they are in their overall investment process. Where's their head at? What kind of assets do they have? Do you plan any major purchases? If they say yes, it gives me a prompt here and say, for what? I'm thinking about buying a car. How much do you need for the car? Well, I don't know, $25,000. See, again, I differentiate myself because I may talk about financing that car into the home. And you say, well, why would you do that? That's a 30-year note. No, it's not. It's not if I do a HELOC. It's not if I have them take it out on a primary mortgage, but pay the car payment towards the mortgage. They pay off that portion of the note in 3 or 4 years. They would have paid for their car for 5 or 6 years because the car isn't deductible and it's a higher interest rate, 7 or 8% maybe, versus the house might be 3.5% or 4%, which after tax is 2%. So I'm able to finance them at 60 to 70% less in interest rate, and if they make the same payment they were going to make financing it through the dealership, they can pay that car off as part of their mortgage loan in a very short period of time. And if they like it and they're comfortable doing it, they can keep paying that extra amount after the car is paid off, and they're going to pay that mortgage off even faster. See, these are the kinds of conversations that I would have with clients when I was talking to them, and there was just no question that I was the person that they wanted to do business with because no one else was asking them these questions. Would you like me to roll your closing costs in? Maybe you asked that question, but this is a way to ask it and know what the client said, yes or no. I'd ask them if you could choose between the lowest possible payment and highest possible deduction, or you get a higher payment with a lower deduction, and in one case you paid principal, one case you didn't, what was more important to you? And this was my interest-only question because this was a big question, especially with clients from advisors and high-net-worth clients. They often prefer a lower payment, higher deduction with little or no principal. This is an interest-only solution. This is an amortizing solution. And then you look at risk tolerance. I'd say, do you consider yourself when you borrow to be aggressive, moderate, or conservative? Most people have never been asked this question. When an advisor sits down and talks to you about investing and stuff, they have to ask you, when it comes to your investments, when it comes to your savings, etc., are you going to focus aggressively, moderately, or conservatively? What is your risk tolerance? And I asked that question about their borrowing. Because if they said they were aggressive, I could do shorter term ARMs and interest only. If they said they're extremely conservative, I was going to focus on a 30-year fixed or a 15-year fixed. And these are the kinds of products that a conservative person's interested in. These are the kinds of things that an aggressive person might consider. So this really was a wonderful tool. Don't think of it as a lot of extra work. If you do a little bit of extra work and use the Ask tab with your client, you're going to learn a lot of new stuff that will help you do a better job with that particular client situation. Now when I go to the Borrow tab, I know the types of things that I might want to talk about. In this case, I don't have enough equity to pay off the car, so I'm going to pay off the mortgage and the credit cards. And I do that by saying yes and yes to those debts and no to the auto. My property value is $285, so my loan amount is $219,190. Where did I get that? Well, I need $215,000 to pay off the mortgage and the credit card, so I put in $215,000. That was my starting amount. And then over here on the discount points to buy the loan down and the closing costs, I put those in and clicked Include in Loan Amount. And that adds it right to the loan amount and gets them to $219,190. Now they're borrowing $236 today. They're going to borrow $241.90 when they're done. So why has that gone up? It's gone up by the closing cost. That's what they're borrowing today. But I can already see their pre-tax rate now is 6.6. Their new pre-tax is 3.8. After tax 4.8, 2.78. They're spending $21.19 now. They're going to be spending $16.68. I can already see that there's a real benefit. And like Adam talked about, I'd start here with the closing costs. You got no closing costs if you stay with what you got. If you go with a 30, you're going to spend $41.90 out of pocket, but it's not coming out of pocket because I'm going to roll that in for you. You got nothing out of pocket here. Yeah, but I've increased my loan amount. I've increased my term. That's okay. This is what they're thinking. I'm going to address that by the fact that you're going to free up $451 a month in positive cash flow. And then I go right down to future wealth and say you're spending $21.19 a month here. If you spend $21.19 a month on both of these loans, we can see the financial impact here. You're debt-free. Let's go out 7 years. Debt-free in 229 months versus 169. $45,448 in savings that we're going to pick up for you over just a 7-year period. And again, that is a very, very powerful number. I like to take that back, and sometimes you can take 45,448. Just do and ask. When I say you take it, have the client do this. People appreciate what they discover, okay? And you can give them this, but let's just say that I showed you this, and I said, I want you to do something for me. Do you have a sheet of paper there? Let's try a little math. Take 45,488, okay, and divide that by 7 and see what you come up with, all right? And they do the math on the sheet of paper. It's about $6,498 a year, okay? So over the next 7 years, if you don't do this, you're going to lose about $6,498 a year. I tell you what, go ahead and divide that by 12. And that's 541. Now this is a surprising number to a lot of people because up here we said what? The payment difference is 451, and that's true. But your payment difference and your savings are not the same. Oftentimes the savings is actually much greater on a monthly basis because of either tax benefits, time value of money, the acceleration of principal. So this is the part, and this is a secret I haven't shared with you, but it is a humdinger. If you engage the client at the end of the process and have them do 1 or 2 small pieces of math, simple things that they do themselves, they discover for themselves something, and it has a great deal more believability than if you simply tell them what it is that you're doing for them. And my favorite 2-step process, and I'll do it again because it's very simple, is we say, let's just say your time frame is 10 years. So I go out to 10 years, and I say that's $66,219 you're going to avoid losing over the next 10 years. Do me a favor, get out a sheet of paper, or here's a calculator, slide them a calculator, and say, do me a favor and take 66,219. That's what you're going to save, and divide that by 10 years, and see what you come up with. Now divide that by 12, we can see what you're actually saving on a monthly basis. It's not $451 a month, the payment difference. The actual wealth impact for you is more. It's $551 a month. So if you don't do this, you're effectively losing $551 a month over the next 10 years. If you can't close that client on doing something that's this good for them, they aren't closable. They aren't open. They never intended to do business with you to begin with for some reason. But this is a simple strategy that engages the client and allows them to participate with you in a discovery process that this is a really good thing for me to do. Now, for some clients, you'll notice that we expanded a tab here called the Ask tab, and then I'll wrap this up. There's one more tab you have access to that Adam showed you, and that's the Repay tab. So I can expand the advanced repay section, and I have all kinds of new features and tools here that I can use to show clients of various repayment strategies. I typically say click use same as borrow. This will sync you up with what you just did on the other page, but don't make it the same. Sometimes it's fun to make it the same, but I like to make this different. Let's go out 30 years. And let's say that your goal is to build wealth, right? Okay, if you keep doing what you're doing today, let's just keep it normal payment. Just keep doing what you're doing right now. All right, here's what it looks like for you in the next 30 years. Congratulations, you're debt-free. Your debt-free date is 29 years, 6 months if you don't change a thing. Now let's look down here at what I'm recommending over 30 years. If you look at what I'm recommending, you're debt-free with the same payment in 18 years, 2 months. If you were debt-free in 18 years, 2 months, what would you do with the extra money? Because if you spend it, that's okay. That means that you're going to get to spend this money, an extra $205,317. If you want to save it, that means at the end of 30 years, you have an extra $215,000 or $205,000 to spend in the future. Either way, people love to spend, and I can position it as one of two ways. You can spend it now and start spending in 18 years and 2 months and get to spend and have $205,000 worth of fun, or get to this point and have $205,000 of future spending. The question is, which two people do you want to be? This guy here, this gal here, or this guy or gal here? And I'm showing you that that's something that we can do together. All right? And then I can move on to my Present tab. Next week, I'll get into some of the more advanced features on the repay screen, something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I don't want to run over here too much more. But I'll get into the biweekly and some of the different, the asset snowball and some of the more advanced features, because I've had people say that they have won deals and taken people off of a fence post when they're sitting there by going through and graphically showing them the impact of different things, such as I have a bonus coming in at the end of the year. Well, with this software, I can come in here and say, I want to make a $30,000 one-time payment, and I want to make that at month 12. And you can illustrate for somebody what that looks like. And I want to make that payment towards the mortgage. But I'm going to take the savings each month, and I'm going to save that. So I'm going to put the $451 a month that I've got in savings is going to go into my savings account. But I'm going to take the $30,000 one-time payment and apply that towards the mortgage as a repayment in a year. What would that do? And look what you can illustrate. Here's the big dent of the $30,000 pay down, and the mortgage pays off over 27 years. But my $451 a month is growing. It crosses at the freedom point of 14 years, 11 months. So you have the option to be debt-free in 14 years, 11 months. Or you could pay your mortgage off over 27 years, and guess what? Have $360,783 sitting there in a savings account in 30 years. Incredibly cool, incredibly powerful. And when it's time to present, you just go to the Present tab and present it however you want to present it to that particular client. Present it as a PDF, as a web page, as a website, or do a live demo like we're doing today. So that'll bring us to a close today. We're at an hour and 30 seconds on our recording. I know we ran over a little bit because we started late, and I apologize. If you have questions, things you want to learn about, have us show you how to do, email us at support@KendallTodd. If we can't do it now, we'll figure out how to build it for you. If you aren't a user today, do know that our prices are going up July. I think it's July 1st instead of the 31st. I need to edit that. July 1st. So you got a month to lock in our current pricing on a monthly or annual basis. You can email us if you want to learn more about that. And I am going to be releasing next week our new strategic market update for the month of June 1st. So if you haven't signed up for that, go do that and get a copy of that each month. It's about 10 to 12 minutes that'll really keep you posted on what I think's happening out there in the market. So again, wish you the best. We're here. You can count on us. We're going to see you guys to continue to improve your conversion rates and your profitability and the financial impact you're having on your clients. So thanks for being a customer, and take care. Have a great day.